Hello and welcome to another expert briefing. I'm your host, Microsoft MVP and solution architect at Cloud Interact in the UK, Tom Morgan. We're going to be talking Copilot Studio today, and so I'm really pleased to be doing that with somebody who knows all about this topic, coming to us from beautiful Italy, right next to Lake Garda, I think. It's Paolo Pialorsi, who used to be an MVP and is now a blue badge. He's a Microsoft 365 developer advocate at Microsoft. Paolo, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. And yes, I'm a blue badge nowadays, and I work as a senior developer advocate in the fields of Microsoft 365 development and extensibility. Yeah, true.
Fantastic. And yes, so as we say, we're going to be talking all about Copilot agents. And I think you probably have to have been living under a rock for the past year or so not to have heard about Copilot agents. But it hasn't always been like that. You know, there were a couple of years when Copilot first came out. Although as a developer kind of working in this space, I think what I was really impressed with when Copilot did first come out is there was always an extensibility story. It wasn't always called agents. There was always something, and it's kind of become agents, and it's become a lot more sort of concrete over the sort of the past year or so. But yeah, I think you might know this as well. I think lots of people are still getting their heads around what agents are and why they're important, and are they just more a fancy kind of way of saving a prompt and all that kind of stuff. So how do you talk about agents to people?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. Well, let me make an example. Often when you use Microsoft 365 Copilot or actually any other AI chat-based system, you make a prompt willing to get back an answer, and you not always get back what you are looking for, because the knowledge base available for the AI agent and AI model that you are relying on is too big, too wide, and often it could happen that instead of getting just what you are looking for, you can get hallucinations, or you can get information from data sources which are not actually your target. So if you want to have a more specific and context-focused approach when relying on AI-based technologies, you should always be able to set the specific set of content, the knowledge base, and the RAG that you want to use to enrich and give you a better answer when you interact with the AI interface. And that's the overall idea of an agent, because with an agent nowadays you can simply provide a specific set of knowledge base, a specific set of capabilities, which will allow you to extend the out-of-the-box behavior of the Microsoft 365 Copilot or any other AI technology. Yeah.
I've got this sort of analogy that I use. You tell me whether you like it or not. So it's a bit like I've got a car at home, and it's fine. Like, it does most things okay. It's kind of an average car. I can take it to the racetrack and I can drive around a racetrack and it will go around fine, but it won't go around the fastest. But a Formula One car is really good at going around racetracks, but that's kind of all it can do. Like, you can't take it to the shops. It doesn't work. It doesn't get over the bumps, right? And that's a little bit how I think about agents. They're very specialist types of things. They're still cars. They've still got engines. Under the hood, it's kind of all Copilot. But the engine, if you like, is Copilot. But like the Formula One car is like a very specific type of car, in the same way that like a tractor is a specific type of car, in that, you know, you can take it and take loads of hay with it, which you can do in a normal car, just it makes a real mess and like you can't take as much.
Yeah, I really like this metaphor, because it really gives you the idea of what an agent is and what is the benefit of using an agent. You are going to use an agent for every single specific scenario and context where you want to apply AI. And by doing that, of course, you will use the sport car on a racetrack, and you will use a different kind of car for different kind of objectives and goals, definitely. And that's why, if you think about that, all of the agents share the same basic idea and architecture, and then you can specialize them in specific context based on what you need to do. Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the ways people get a bit confused is, I think they get their head around agents. It's like, okay, I've got Copilot, I understand what that does. I understand the value of agents, of having, you know, a very specific thing to do a job. But then I think they get confused because there's lots of different ways to make agents, and they're all called Copilot agents, but they're all quite different. And I think that's because there's things for everybody, you know, all the way from kind of low code all the way up to pro code. There are entry points for everyone. But I think if you're coming into it, it can be really confusing. So hopefully we can break down some of that confusion on this. So kind of listen out for what aligns with you and your, what you're comfortable doing. But also I think it's worth listening for other people as well. Like you might be like a dev developer, and that's your whole history. And so you're going to be looking out for the pro code solutions, right? But I would say don't ignore the low code stuff as well. Because you're listening out kind of for other people as well, because other people are going to say to you like, oh, I've heard about this Copilot agent thing, what should I do? Don't give them your answer, give them the answer that's right for them, I think. All right.
Yeah.
So let's start low code. Let's start right kind of at the beginning, because there's a few things here on there. There's like SharePoint agents are a thing. There's an agent builder in Copilot Chat, and there's also what's called Copilot Studio agents. Are they all the same thing? Are they slightly different? Like, how do they break down?
Well, it is a kind of a complex scenario. We have plenty of options available, but let me start setting the context, because when it comes to creating or building agents, we need to know that all of the agents, no matter what kind of agent they are, if they are low code, pro code, or whatever else, they all share the same idea and the same architecture under the cover. So every single agent does have a foundational model at the basis, which could be, for example, a GPT-4, GPT-5, or any other foundational model that we have in the AI landscape. They have an orchestrator, which will be the component responsible of interpreting what the user is willing to do and acting against the knowledge base of the agent, against the skills and capability of the agent, and eventually relying on the autonomous capabilities of the agent itself. And then there is a user experience, which is not always there, because there could even be so-called autonomous agents, which don't have a user experience. They simply work in the background without an actual user interaction. And then we have agent-to-agent protocols to have agents talk each other and build more complex workflows. Okay, so starting from this basic architectural model, then we can have agents in the fields of Microsoft 365 Copilot, at least, agents that rely on the foundational model and orchestrator of Copilot. And those agents are called declarative agents, because they simply rely on the out-of-the-box foundational model and orchestrator of Copilot. Or we can have so-called custom engine agents, which are those that rely on any kind of foundational model of your choice. So you can use whatever you want on Azure AI Foundry or anything else. And they can rely on a custom orchestrator that you will build using any of the SDKs or libraries available out there. Okay? Mm-hmm. So this is the main information to keep into account: declarative agents and custom engine agents. Then you can use low code or pro code or even no code solutions to build any of these options. So when it comes to no code, for example, we have the SharePoint agents. So you are in SharePoint Online, you select some documents or a library or a set collection, and you create on the fly, just using the user experience of SharePoint, an agent. Under the cover, a declarative agent will be created for you, which means that under the cover, you will leverage the foundational model and the orchestrator of Microsoft 365 Copilot. Mm-hmm. And you simply configure, using the UI, your agent. Okay?
I think that's a really good entry point for people, because you don't need to know anything about development. You don't even need to know you're making a declarative agent. I think you can go through the whole process and never know, like you never see anything that tells you you're doing a declarative agent. SharePoint agents is kind of like a cover on top of it. It's like a nice, friendly UI cover to allow you, with the kind of most of the defaults, really, you can't change so much stuff, but for what it is, I think it's really good. You can just sort of describe what you want and then fine tune it.
Yeah, definitely. And the main focus of a SharePoint agent is to work on documents. So it will only rely on documents stored in SharePoint Online, in one or more libraries, one or more site collections, and that's it. If you want to do a little bit more, but still you don't want to write code, you can rely on what is nowadays called Copilot Studio Lite. It used to be the agent builder, but we like renaming stuff.
I'm out of date, I'm sorry. Yeah. I missed a name change.
It's our main job to rename stuff. Mm-hmm. And jokes aside, now Copilot Studio Lite version is the one you use inside the chat of Microsoft 365 Copilot, and you can still use a no-code experience, so you just rely on a web-based designer, but you can do more than just documents. So you can also use Copilot connectors, you can use advanced capabilities like image generation or stuff like that. You can even add content which comes not only from SharePoint, but also from other websites available on the internet, just to make an example. Mm-hmm. And that's still no code. Then maybe you want to do a little bit more. So you want to use the so-called low-code approach, which means that, generally speaking, most of the tasks you will accomplish will be still no code, but there might be some code, like, for example, PowerFX code. And here it comes, the Copilot Studio full version. With the Copilot Studio full version, you can create agents which can be still declarative agents for Copilot. And sorry, I forgot to tell you, but even when you create an agent with Copilot Studio Lite, you still create a declarative agent, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, with Copilot Studio Full, you can still create a declarative agent, so relying on the foundational model and orchestrator of Copilot 365. But you can also create those that are defined as custom engine agents, so you can choose your own foundational model, and you can use the orchestrator provided by Copilot Studio, which is part of the Power Platform offering. Okay, mm-hmm. And this is the low-code option.
Yeah. And actually, that I think if people are already comfortable with the Power Platform, I think they might find that a really nice place to be, because it works very well with, it works really well with Power Automate flows. It works well with, some of the other kind of part of that whole Power Platform suite. You can really sort of feel, it feels like part of it. So I think, yeah, if you're already using that, then maybe go check that out. But I spend a lot of time in Copilot Studio Lite, actually. I've been really surprised how it's come on to do. And this is what I meant by people kind of listening all the way through to all the options, because actually a lot of the time you don't have to solve your problem in code. Like, you might actually find it's quicker to use one of these lower, even if you class yourself as a developer, depending on what you're trying to do. If it's a proof of concept, or you just want to get something out the door, faster than writing it from scratch, and you've got no need to and no want to, then go check them out, because they're getting more powerful and capable with each iteration, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And the Copilot Studio option is really good for people who are used to work in the Power Platform, as you said, because you can rely on Power Platform connectors. You can rely on agent flows, which are basically workflows built with Power Automate, but hosted inside the engine of Copilot Studio agents and stuff like that. So you can rely on what you already know about the Power Platform. And let me put it this way, even if you are a developer, and personally I'm a developer, I was born as a developer, and I think I will always be deeply in my side a developer, I use on a daily basis both Copilot Studio and Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, because it really depends on what you want to do. And doesn't mean that if you are a developer you don't want to use, or you don't need to use Copilot Studio. And if you are a maker, you can always learn a little bit more and also create something in, for example, Visual Studio Code using the Agents Toolkit, because why not?
Yeah, absolutely. So those are kind of like, we've covered the kind of low code space, I think. Stepping up slightly, I think if you want to do some development, but you kind of like you're not ready to kind of jump completely into the deep end, or you don't need to jump completely into the deep end, declarative agents are a great place to go, I think, because there's definitely code in that. Like, if you want to feel like you've done some coding, declarative agents are good. But again, the onboarding experience is really nice now, I think, with the agents toolkit and everything, and that process. I think it's a nice way to get to kind of you got more power because you have more things to change. But it's a well kind of structured scaffolding thing, I think.
Yeah, totally agree with the declarative agents with the pro code approach. So when we wear the hat of a developer and we start using, instead of something provided by the Power Platform, we start using Visual Studio Code, for example, we can rely on the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit. And in that one, you can easily create a pro code declarative agent, which is nothing more than a JSON file where you configure all of the functionalities, capabilities, knowledge bases, and stuff like that of your agent. But again, it is a declarative agent. So keep into account that again, and one more time, the foundational model and the orchestrator will be those provided out of the box by Microsoft 365 Copilot. When you use or when you create a declarative agent with a pro-code approach in Visual Studio Code and with the Agent Toolkit, what you create is something that you can package and release to multiple customers, for example. I'm not saying that you cannot do that when you create an agent with Copilot Studio, but it is less easy to do, let me put it this way. I mean, you need to export the solution, to import the solution on the other side. There is much more work to do if you want to use the Power Platform as a platform to develop solutions that you want to release and deploy on multiple customers. Mm-hmm. Contrary, it is quite easy and straightforward to create a solution with Visual Studio Code and the Agents Toolkit, to package the solution as a really simple zip file, a package, and then you deploy it on multiple customers, and you just upload in the App Store of the customer the package, and you make your agent available to as many customers as you like.
And it's got lots of good stuff in it. Like, I mean, a lot of the things that you might think are kind of reserved for the low-code stuff are really easy to enable in declarative agents. I'm thinking of things like the image generation, the code interpreter, web search. Like, a lot of that stuff is just, it's like one line to enable it in the manifest, and then it's good to go. And I think the thing that really lights it up for me as well is the APIs, like the ability to kind of just configure your own APIs and tell declarative agent, yeah, you could use these APIs when answering questions as well. So you can kind of ship it with the Copilot orchestration, but also your own APIs, which I think is super powerful.
Yeah, it is really powerful, and you really feel the power of being a developer in that scenario, because you can rely, as you said, on your own API or on third-party APIs as well. And you can simply configure those API actions in the declarative agent, and you can rely on the Open API spec to plug in an API into your declarative agent, and that's really easy. Maybe in the near future, we will also be able to support MCP, the Model Context Protocol. That one right now is, for example, supported in Copilot Studio, but not yet in the declarative agents, just to make an example. Or another thing that you should keep into account is that, for example, when you create a declarative agent nowadays, you cannot create autonomous declarative agents, while you can create autonomous agents with Copilot Studio. So again, depending not only on your role, but also on what you want to do, you should choose declarative agents with Procode or agents in Copilot Studio or other stuff like that.
Yeah, and all of those live kind of really firmly in Microsoft 365 Day. It's always the Copilot orchestrator that is the model there. Mm-mm. Yeah. Then I think completing the set, the kind of fully pro code, we've got the Microsoft 365 Agents SDK, which I think I'm right in saying used to be a long time ago the old bot framework, and it's kind of evolved through that, and now it's this, but it's so much more than really now. It's become so much more than that. But I'm kind of putting that name in for old timers who are like, oh, I knew that. Okay, this is that, and they can see the evolution. But this is a full pro code solution, right? This is bring your own almost everything. You can swap everything out. What's the starting point of this? Is it an SDK and a solution file and some examples and off you go? Or is it more like declarative agents where it's a manifest that you configure, but the kind of the implementation of it is kind of done for you?
Sure. When it comes to building such kind of agents, we are actually going to build with a pro-code approach, fully pro-code approach, the custom engine agents. So nowadays, when you create a custom engine agent, you can still use the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit, and you can use it in Visual Studio Code or in Visual Studio. So the big brother, let me put it this way. Okay. And depending where you are, you can build agents with TypeScript and JavaScript if you are in Visual Studio Code, or you can build agents with .NET and C# if you are in Visual Studio. And you can rely on the agent SDK, which is actually not the only option you have. So when you use the agents toolkit and you create agents, you can choose to create Teams agents, which will rely on the Teams AI library, or you can create agents which will rely on the Microsoft 365 agent SDK. And in that scenario, you can target many more channels. So you can host your agent still, and of course, in Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat or in Teams, but you can also host it in a web application or even in a console application and so on and so forth, because it is up to you to choose the channel where you want to publish, to deliver your agent. And while building your agent, you should also choose the orchestrator that you want to use. And so you need to think about the SDK or library that you want to use for the orchestrator. You need to take care about accessing the knowledge base, getting access to, for example, the reg data that you might have in Azure AI Search or stuff like that, and so on and so forth. So it is all about writing code to achieve your goal in a fully pro-code approach. And the result of this solution will be a custom developed solution that again you can deploy on multiple customers and will make it possible for you to sell or release as an ISV, for example, a solution to multiple customers.
Yeah, I think it's the closest thing to kind of traditional code that we, like that gets packaged and deployed and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so people are going to have to kind of choose what path is right for them. And like I said before, it's not necessarily always going to be the same path for every problem, I don't think. Feel free to go up and down that stack. I mean, we've talked about, capabilities and sort of pro versus low and what's there. And I think that's part of the decision. I think it's always worth checking what capabilities are available in each thing because it is changing all the time. I think I think authentication always comes up as a challenge for people, but I think it's a problem that's been well solved kind of pretty much up and down the stack now. I think all of the solutions we've talked about can deal with users being able to authenticate and even passing that through to third-party APIs and thinking about declarative agents and stuff like that. I think that's all now kind of, it's all there, isn't it? So that isn't really a problem. I think cost and licensing probably comes in a little bit. So starting from the kind of pro model, for instance, there's no charge to use the Microsoft 365 Agents SDK because you're bringing your own everything. You're going to have to pay for hosting and all that kind of stuff. It's like a solution like anything else, but it's free to use in that it's not licensed. I think that's probably the same for declarative agents as well, but stop me if that's not true. But I think it mostly is apart from the people using it possibly. But I know kind of Copilot Studio, there's licensing around that. Can you help me out? Because I always get lost with licensing.
Well, let me put it this way. You can use and rely on declarative agents without the need to have a license as long as you don't rely on RAG data that you have in Microsoft 365 tenant. So, for example, if you create a declarative agent, which will have the expertise on specific content which is available on a public website. Public website is public, so you don't need to have access to the reg data that you have in your Microsoft 365 tenant, and you don't need a license. You can simply rely on the Copilot for All license, we call it that way, so the one you have out of the box when you have Microsoft 365 tenant. So you pay for the tenant, but you don't pay for additional licenses for Copilot. However, if you want to give a specific knowledge base to the declarative agent, like for example, documents stored in SharePoint Online or in OneDrive, or if you want to get access to messages in Teams or emails in Exchange Online and stuff like that, then you will need to get access to the actual graph data which is available in your tenant. And to do so, you can either go for the pay-as-you-go model, so you still don't have a license on a per-user basis, but you still pay on a consumption basis because you pay as you go. Or you can buy the Copilot license for your end users, and as such, the declarative agent will be able to rely on those information available through the Microsoft Graph. So you have different options depending on the number of users and the number of use cases that you want to cover.
Okay, that makes sense. And how possible, if at all, is it to sort of move between them, to kind of start in one place and realize that it's not quite right? And are they movable? Do you know what I mean? Can you start in, I don't know, Copilot Studio and break out into like a pro code thing, or go the other way, or anything like that?
We are working in this area right now. For example, when you create a SharePoint agent, the SharePoint agent, if you look into it, because when you create a SharePoint agent, you get a .agent file created in the library where you create the agent itself. Mm-hmm. That .agent file is a JSON file where you can find almost the same syntax. I say almost because it is not exactly the same. There are small differences, but it is almost the same schema and syntax of a regular declarative agent that you create as a pro code in Visual Studio Code. So you can theoretically export the content, and by adjusting that content, you can reuse it in a declarative agent in Visual Studio Code. When you create an agent with the Copilot Studio Lite version, you can export the agent as a zip file, and that zip file is made of the icons and again of the JSON file. And now this is literally the JSON file that you can also edit with Visual Studio Code. So yes, you can export it and use it in Visual Studio Code. So you move from no code to pro code.
That's nice. Yeah.
When you are in Copilot Studio, nowadays there is not yet, I don't know if it will be available in the future, I cannot make any promises, but there is not yet a way to export an agent built with Copilot Studio and use it and adapt it inside Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, to be completely clear. But at the same time, we need to keep into account that nowadays it is taking more and more space, the agent-to-agent protocol, or the idea to have agents interacting each others. So you can even think about scenarios and architectures where you have one agent in Copilot Studio, another agent built with the agent SDK, and you can make them talk each other so that you don't necessarily need to export and import if you change your mind or if you have new requirements that you need to satisfy and that will need you to move to a full pro code approach. But you can keep what you have in the low code space, and you can then interact with the pro code space just using the agent-to-agent interaction.
I see. Yeah, so it almost doesn't matter. And actually, the reverse is probably true as well. Like, you could have your pro code team, if you're a big enterprise, you've got your own IT team, they can do something very specific and write an agent in some kind of pro code thing that is super specific to the business. But then, everyone else in the organization can have access to it, through agent to agent, and they don't need to be like a pro code necessarily. They still have access to use it in lower code environments and almost with that nice UI and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the overall idea and the landscape we see in front of us. Yeah.
Nice. So I think I've said it a few times, like, don't limit yourself to one of these approaches. I think use the one that's right for you at the time. I think proof of concepts and versus kind of big multi-year projects are very different things, and they require different approaches. And the same with who's going to look after it as well. I think that should factor into people's sort of decision making around, it's super easy as a developer to jump into be like, I'll just jump into the pro code because that's where I'm comfy. But like, you're making new code. Like, if you did it in something like a declarative agent or even something like Copilot Studio, more people will be able to look after it over time, and that's kind of an interesting way to think about it as well, as like the longevity of it, of what you're building, I think as well. So yeah. Lots of cool stuff there. That's really, really useful. Thank you. A really good kind of coverage, I think, of all the different ways that you could do Copilot agents. And so hopefully it serves as a good kind of starting point if you want to get into this space but you're not quite sure where to start. Hopefully this has given you some starting points depending on which ones resonate the most. I hope it's been useful. Do drop us your feedback, your questions, your comments, the things you didn't like. Put more in the comments. That'd be really, really good. I'll take all the good ones. I'll give all the bad ones to Paolo. It's fine. No, but honestly, let us know about this. We're doing something slightly different with these expert briefings, focusing a little bit more on the dev and the extensibility stuff. So let us know what you think about it. But I just want to say thank you ever so much, Paolo. It's been really, really interesting and really helpful.
Thank you for having me, and let me remind to the folks listening to us that we also have the Copilot Developer Camp aka.ms/copilot.camp. So if you want to dig into any or all of these options, you can just go there and learn by examples and by labs what to do and when to use what.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, and we'll speak to you next time.